Welcome back to the Eat the Claire podcast show. We have a great episode for you today. We are joined by, I don't want to put a label on you yet here, Jamie. I want you to talk about yourself a little bit. We're James here today with Jamie Hauk from Duluth. So, Jamie, fill us in. What is your profession?
Well, my day profession is actually I'm a clinical therapist, so I have my background in psychology.
Oh.
But I have also been exploring and identifying myself as a psychic medium as well. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, I know.
But I love to hear that you have that degree behind you, because it just tends to lend more credibility to people, you know, especially when you get into the paranormal psychic community. There's this lack of trust almost with individuals, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it definitely gives you that kind of more of a clout, like I'm not just some schmo on the street. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, it definitely gives me that credentialing. And I also am able to pull from that a lot when I do my readings or go into paranormal investigations, just because, you know, you deal with a lot of sadness and grief or anger, or sometimes in my profession, I've dealt with individuals that have very dark pasts. So I'm not afraid to talk about those type of things if they come up, obviously.
Is that something that you lead off when you introduce yourself to, like, your investigation? Do you say, I'm going to come into this with a mindset of a therapist, like I'm going to die, you know, because I feel like normal people break out the tools right away and they break out all the stuff, you know, and we need to capture this thing. But do you come into it more with, you know, there's a story that needs to be told maybe from this thing? Because that's kind of what Adrian tells us. You know, these things have stories from the past, and it can sometimes solve crime, sometimes, you know, mend a family thing that people didn't know about, or, you know, how do you approach it when you go into it?
Yeah, I guess when you say it like a therapist mind, that doesn't resonate with me, but it definitely the psychic medium, going in there as a psychic medium, but definitely pursuing that story and figuring out like what are spirits are here within this residents and that might need some help, and what is their story. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably get into it, but there's lots of different examples that I can give in regards to the spirits that I've connected with and the stories that you get. And sometimes they want to cross over and sometimes they don't. And just even in my readings, being able to help provide closure to people as well.
When did you when did you realize that you had something different about you that other people, because Colin can't, I don't know very many people that can. I've only met a couple who have we've had a psychic on the show, actually. Her name was Mickey.
Okay.
And she is from St. Peter, Faribault. I can't remember.
Faribault. I think, yeah.
And she was trying to explain to me a little bit, but it seems like everyone's got a different story of how they realized that they had a little bit this special ability. When did that come to you?
Well, the first half of it, I would say, is definitely when I was younger, like in maybe 6th, 7th grade or so, is more of that empath end of things, or being able to pick up on people's feelings. My friends found it super annoying.
I bet. Yeah.
Because I'd be like, what's wrong? And they'll be like, oh, no, nothing. And I'll be like, no, I know something's wrong. Why don't you tell me what's wrong? And they'll be like, no, nothing. I'm like, tell me. And they'll be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, how did you know? I'm like, I just knew that something was off.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of started. And it was kind of squashed in some ways just because I grew up within a Christian home in that. And so it wasn't really supported or, you know, fostered. And it wasn't until there's probably 2 experiences that come to my mind when you ask about that question. Is I took a class from 2 guys in the know. They're actually based in the Twin Cities there, Eric and Bert. They went up to Duluth and were hosting this class on psychic mediumship. And they had a whiteboard. Not that old school. But they put some initials on top, right?
Yeah.
So like DT or something. They're like, okay, connect with DT and see what you can get. And I connected, you know, so then you set that intention, ground and center, and you connected. And I started to feel like this queasiness, like dizziness, and that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, stop, you know. And then I was getting other messages. And they said at the end of that exercise is if you were able to connect and get stuff, that you're not only a psychic, but you're also a medium as well. So
interesting.
Yeah, because go ahead.
I don't know what the difference is. I thought psychic and medium were just, it's kind of like fast food worker, you know what I mean? Like the same kind of thing. Restaurant, fast food. Like, what is the difference between medium, psychic?
Okay. They're psychics is, they say like everybody's a little bit psychic, you know, they call it your intuition, your gut instinct, you know, that type of stuff, right? And there's the clairvoyance, all the different clairs that fit into the psychic ability, right? However, for mediumship, you have to like raise your vibration a little bit higher, and that's where you are able to connect with other spirits or other entities, they say.
Gotcha.
So whereas a psychic is just like, if I was doing a reading for you, like connecting with your energy and your guides or my guides, and stuff like that. So that's at a certain level. But when you're doing mediumship, it's a little bit higher in ability to connect with those on that level.
Talk about the vibrations. What does that mean? Because we've had somebody come on and talk about vibrations, but a little bit different way, not paranormal, but more of finding energy to do things. Like they get a good vibration from this person, and maybe they meant it in a psychic way, but they didn't realize that's what it was. So can you kind of explain the vibrations when it comes to this stuff?
So like right now I may be at like a certain vibration. I'm not like tuned in. I'm not grounded and centered. I'm just here chilling with you guys and doing this interview, right?
Yep.
But then if you ground and center, or you kind of clear your mind, right? You remove your ego in a sort of way, is that you get into a certain mind state, or you raise your vibration, they say. I don't know how to really explain it other than that. It's just kind of more of that calm, relaxed feeling, where you're not distracted by thinking of your to-do list or what did I do? You're more centered now here in the moment type of thing. And, I guess I couldn't tell you too much, but they also talk about the different dimensions. So like this one is like the 3D dimension.
Yeah.
And there's 4D. And I think 5D is where more of that, like community type energy and being able to connect with those entities is possibly on that level.
Gotcha. When you say, when you're
on
talking
that.
about, well, it's all right. When you're talking about focusing in and getting rid of distractions, it sounds to me like meditation almost. Like, are you meditating?
Correct.
When you're doing this, focusing in on not everything that's going on in your life, but one thing in particular?
Yeah, you're just really focusing in on the now. There was a presentation that I would do at expos that I'd go to. And because that's where like mental health can come in too.
Yeah.
Is where if you're so worried about the future and all that, like, oh my gosh, I got to get this done, all that kind of stuff. Like that's where like you can get into an anxiety type of thing, right? But then again, too, if you're always in the past, you're thinking about like, oh, I should have done this differently or blah, 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 or replaying things. That's where you can get into depression. But very rarely, like right now in this moment, if you focus like on us being in this room, talking to each other, and that is, we're okay, actually. We're fine. You're not. So it's about being in that present moment of that meditation. Yeah. And the more that you practice that, the easier it comes. I view it as like a muscle. So people that are starting out to embrace their psychic abilities and that, I say just take it easy, go easy with yourself, because you can't go into the gym and start bench pressing 200 pounds,
Yeah,
right?
you hurt
like,
yourself, probably.
Yeah, exactly, right? You got to start with like, a few pounds, like the bar or 20
Ethan
pounds.
and I want to know.
Yeah, we're not big workout guys, clearly, so.
So I view it as like that. So like where I can just kind of start to ground and center, and all of a sudden I might start to get messages even though I'm not fully centered, just because I've practiced that muscle so much.
Interesting. And ground and centered is bit like, I'm assuming like suicidal thoughts and stuff would be a low vibration, and high vibration would be the excitement of winning a race or an embrace of a family member. Is that a good, like, what are the differences between good vibrations, bad vibrations? Beach Boys.
Yeah. I'm talking about good vibrations.
Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah. How did you know, right?
Yeah.
No. Well, they definitely categorize like lower or negative vibrations or energy, and then there's higher vibrational energies. And yeah, the lower ones are definitely some of those typical type of emotions that people might get stuck in, right? That anger or sadness, or that, the suicidal thinking, and that, or obviously acting on their ego is what comes to my mind as well. The higher vibrations are coming more from heart center, or like from love and that unconditional love. And I guess that's probably the biggest thing, is just kind of being in that space.
When you talk to people that are having these low vibrations or whatever, they're having or depression or anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you go to them with that, or do you kind of talk to them with the therapy, or do you kind of combine the two?
I kind of combine the two. When you say that, I definitely think of an individual that I read for last week at an expo. Her daughter had come to my mind in that, and I was talking to her about it, and her daughter is in a very dark place is what I was showing, and definitely experiencing some depressive symptoms and that. And the individual, the female that I had in front of me, she said and shared that she had been through depression in the past as well. And so then she asked, well, is she going to hurt herself? And I instantly heard no, but I did also hear that she's definitely having suicidal ideation, right? And so then that's when I did let her know. I'm like, okay, so this is me coming more from my psychology background. So that way they can tell the difference. It's not like messages I'm receiving. This is more as me as a psychologist coming to you, or a therapist saying like, well, when you check in with her, you just kind of go through that suicidal ideation checklist, make sure, like, does she have a plan? All that kind of stuff. So I go into that more mindset, but I definitely let her know that I was going into that mindset versus the psychic medium.
That's so interesting to me, having both of those abilities, because you can tackle some really deep things with either way of thinking, because they're completely different, but at the same time, there's a lot of very similar things if you think about it.
Correct. Yeah. Like another individual that I read for, she wanted me to connect with her husband who recently passed away. And I was able to connect with him, and he came forward. And I asked, well, I have him here. What kind of questions do you have for him? And she's just like, she's bawling and crying. She's like, I just miss him so much. I just miss him so much. So then I would go into my therapist mind, and I'm like, okay, obviously she's in the very beginning stages of grief, right? Type of thing. Like she's just not there. And so then luckily I had a very similar reading prior to hers. And so I was able to, I drew from that and asked some questions of like, well, do you come around her? Can you show me some good memories you had and all that kind of stuff? So that way she was able to still have a good full reading rather than just being sad.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you ever ask and not get an answer? Like when someone comes to you and, I want to know whatever, my future, a loved one passed away. Do you ever get nothing? Like
sometimes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation?
I just let them know that it's blocked or I'm not getting around it. There is tools and different things that you can use. Like they say that you can ask your guides if they can talk to their guides, or, there's sometimes ways around that wall. But then sometimes I focus on, okay, so then why is this wall here then? Is there something that you need to work through? Or is there something that if they're trying to get connected to a past loved one or something, what are they hiding? Or what do they, so why is it being blocked is then what I kind of focus on.
That's interesting. Do you ever have somebody that comes to you and asks, you get these typical psychic questions. Will I become rich? Will I get married? What age will I become married at? And do people, because we asked this other psychic this too, because these are the questions that people think you go to a psychic for.
Yeah.
You have people come to you that say that. Are you like, why don't we take that back a little bit and let's focus in on some real problems in your life, not getting rich, not what age you're going to get married. Is that a thing that
yeah,
I can only imagine just people coming in.
Actually, what was it at this expo the last time is also was that lady that ended up having the daughter that was depressed and stuff. Her first question was like, where's my wallet that I lost? I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. It took up like 3 minutes of the reading. I'm like, okay, so what else do you want to talk about? Like that's all the information that I can give.
Or I've heard of people that they'll tell their like their grandpa who's about to pass away, I'm going to give you a word, and when I go to a psychic, I want that psychic to be able to repeat.
I haven't knock on wood, I haven't had that yet.
That you know what I mean? Like they almost like gotcha things. Trying to it's tough to probably be in your position because you have people probably that are very skeptical. Of it,
definitely. And I mean, and I guess I'm just very upfront with them in if that's what they're looking for, if they like, I want to know if I become rich or when am I going to get married. I'm just very upfront with them, and I let them know like, hey, my readings I find tend to be more about life path or life purpose type of things. Yeah. So if you're coming to me and asking me, how can I get rich or will I be rich? My reading would end up telling you about like maybe some blocks that you need to go through, or maybe different avenues or different things like that. It's not going to be like yes or no. Yeah. It's going to lay a roadmap of some options for you and maybe some things that you need to work through. And the same thing for like finding love. Like maybe you need to work on self-love or get over a past, like other things, or you need to be in a good spot before you can have love in your life type of thing. Yeah. So I'm just really upfront with them and letting them know, because then I'm not the psychic for you. So.
And for real. And well, when we were talking to this other lady as well, I said, even if you don't believe anything that you're saying, the advice that you give is generally out of good faith and like good hope for this person. So even if you think there's no such thing as psychics or mediums, you're not coming to them saying, you should sell your house and get rid of, you're coming to them with, these are even if it's just advice, it's going to help them in some way. Because sometimes people just need someone to talk to. Yeah. And that's why I feel like a lot of people go to psychics is even if they don't believe it, they can come to that mindset and talk to somebody, in, especially you being a clinical psychologist, so you have that background.
Yeah.
Where I can't get over how some people can get so frustrated about psychics, even if, I can't. There's good things that come out of it either way you look at it.
That's what I look at it as too, is a lot of the times people are just looking for validation of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I know before I branched out and really kind of started my own business and doing readings for people, I'd go and see psychics and that too, and get readings. And a lot of the times it's just because you're at a pivotal point, or you're kind of like, I don't know if I should do this or I should do that, but inside you know it. But then if it comes up in the reading, it's like, might add some more information for you to kind of really think about. And that's what I'll say too a lot of the times, is just lay out those options for them. Like, like if you decide to take this new job, here's some options for you. If you decide to stay where you're at, here's the outcome of it. And so which one, I'm not going to tell you what to do, because ultimately it's going to be your choice, but this is what the cards are presenting, or this is the information I'm given, and you make the best choice for you, type of thing, and what resonates best for you. But right now, this is how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, and you brought up cards. So do you use tarot cards all the time, or is that something that comes up? People ask for that.
Yeah. I was strictly more so definitely I would definitely use my tarot cards or oracle cards to do for readings. But now that I've been taking an advanced mediumship class, I've been focusing more, as well as a couple mentors of mine are like, you don't need cards, blah, 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 type of thing. So what I've been doing is kind of a blend of both. So I'll maybe sit down with somebody and see what I can get psychically first, because a lot of the times you'll get something a lot more different, or I get definitely more images through clairvoyance and that in regards to what is coming up in that person's life. Or like that reading I told you about the daughter, like had I brought out cards, the daughter may not have come up had I not sat there and psychically got it instead. So I'll start that way first. And then sometimes they'll tell, my guides or my higher self will be like, nope, go to the cards, or pick this deck or pick that deck. And just to kind of get further clarification on the situation if it needs to be.
Talk about the cards a little bit for people that have no idea what they are, because I can only imagine there are a lot of listeners right now that think tarot cards, witchcraft, satanic, devil worship, whatever. And from what we got out of him from when Adrian had some here, he was showing us, I got something more completely different. Like they're a good use to help tell a story or a path. Can you kind of explain that a little bit to people?
Yeah. Well, and there is a difference too between tarot cards and oracle cards, and that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Tarot cards is like your standard tarot deck that has been around for like many, 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 many years. I'm sure Adrian would have the exact date and everything in history of how they were started. I do not, but I know that they've been around for a very long time. So they have like if you went to the store and you bought a tarot deck, they have a basics standard tarot deck, so it has all the suits, all of the major arcana. And yes, and that's what it is it tells a story and pivotal points in a person's life and their life purpose, life path, and can let you know about finances, career, about passions, about money, about relationships, about communication, and that. And just knowing the basis understanding of them and how they're laid out can tell that story. Oracle cards are more like specific decks that are made for different topics, and those cards are only specified for that particular deck. So ones that I pull from a lot are the Enchanted Map deck, which focuses on life path and life purpose. And then there's an Energy Oracle deck that I use, and that focuses more on the energy surrounding the situation or the person. Those are probably the two that I pull the most from, just because, again, that's what my readings tend to focus around.
So if I came to you and said, I don't want to use, or I don't want to tell you what to use, I want you to pick, would that, like you said, would there be something that say, okay, grab the Oracle or grab the Tarot?
Yeah.
And that, or neither?
Correct.
Would that's kind of how it is?
Yeah. When people come at, like how I would start a reading is, I ask them, well, do you have a question in mind or a specific area or topic you'd like me to focus on? Ironically, a lot of people are just like, oh, just general, just see what kind of comes up. And like, okay, sounds good. And then I'll dive in psychically first, see what I can kind of get. And sometimes, like at the expo that I did last week, there were several readings where I didn't pull any cards out. And then there were some times where, like you said, I felt calling to, okay, yes, pull out your tarot deck, or yes, pull out the energy deck, or I have other decks that I use too. And I'm like, oh, for some reason they're wanting me to use the past life deck. Okay, here we go, type of thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Past life. That's an interesting topic to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit? Because
God, now you're gonna get me started.
We have never gotten into past life on the podcast. I don't think ever.
Oh
I don't
my God,
ever
I
remember talking
love
about it.
past life
Can you kind of
stuff.
explain that a little bit? Is it a Buddhist or is it a certain religion that really?
I believe so. I don't know the history of that, but I do know that what they say is that our soul has reincarnated, right? So we're in this life, and you're here on this earth to learn certain lessons, to go through certain experiences and stuff like that. And then when you pass away, your soul goes to what's like heaven or something, or the Akashic records, and you review your life and what choices did you do, what lessons did you accomplish, and all that kind of stuff. And then you might reincarnate back to have different roles or different lessons to focus on in that. So your soul is evolving over time.
Would it be an animal or is it always a human? Because I've heard animals before too.
I know. That's what some people, me, I don't really resonate with the animal thing. I know that there are people out there that resonate. Like I've been a beaver before, whatever, and I'm just like, and then then it's like, I know some people think I'm crazy, but then to call that person crazy, it just seems wrong, right? Like, but at least for me and what I believe is that no, you're always like a human. I would definitely say, for me personally, I believe that you would reincarnate as an animal.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you go into that category of the reading, when they talk about past life, what does that tell you about a person? Like, can it be from a completely different culture? Can you tell, like, this person was Indian and now they're whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does that come up to you?
Well, when I've done readings in that, they have certain like topics or areas or cultures in that will come up, and it's really, again, it's about telling that story. And usually for past lives or past life work, they say, is there's something to kind of usually resolve in this life, because we take some of those things into this lifetime. For example, I guess a big one that a lot of people can resonate with is, for some reason, you might have some unnatural fear of something, like, like, oh, I can't be on boats, or I get really nervous going over bridges, or
that's interesting.
because then they say like, oh, well, possibly in a past life, you may be on a bridge that collapsed, or you died at sea or something, so you carry over different lessons and different things over into this lifetime. And that can also be in relationships wise, or how you view money. Like maybe you were a peasant in a past life and always had to struggle. So now in this lifetime, you're thinking you're always going to have to struggle for money again. But that doesn't necessarily mean this is a different lifetime. You don't have to struggle anymore.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just those type of things that, and even though whether or not, if you believe in it, this is where that comes out. And again, whether or not you believe in past lives, there's still something to take away from it. And it's almost really odd because it's like your soul recognizes it on some level.
Yeah.
And it can provide some sort of like peace or understanding to it.
Yeah.
I could share my first past life
I would love to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we've never honestly talked about it. So I would love to hear it.
Okay. I was maybe around 22 or so, and I had my daughter around then, and I was with her father at that point in time, and it was not a healthy relationship. It was very emotionally and verbally abusive in that, and he was just not a very nice person. Sorry, but
It's all
back
right.
then.
Everyone's had those experiences.
I know, we all have our history, right? So I had finally decided to, and it was on again, off again type of thing. And I had finally decided, like, nope, we're done, because you know what? I don't want my daughter growing up thinking that it is okay to have this type of relationship with somebody. So nope, we are done. I'm it. That's it. And then that's when he started to try and change, right? And like do all those things I asked. And I just had this like hatred for him, like hatred. And I'm not one to usually like hate people. I might dislike you, but I don't like hate you. Like I felt it in the bellows of my belly, Like,
yeah, that's fair.
And around this point in time too, I was starting to explore my spirituality as well. And I had went to a Doreen Virtue event down here in the Twin Cities. And I had bought one of her CDs about a past life regression.
Is this a psychic, Doreen?
Not so much anymore. That's another long story.
She was at the time.
She was at that point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, she worked really closely with like angels and different goddesses and gods and stuff like that. So that's what kind of really introduced me to this other psychic realm of things.
Yeah.
And so I bought her CD, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this past life regression. I put it in my CD player. And I'm thinking, I've always loved Egypt. I've always had this calling. Like I wanted to be an archaeologist and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to have a past life. It's going to be Egypt type of thing, right? So that's what I'm going into it. And she walks you through a deep, deep meditation where you can't even freaking move. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
like you can't move. You're totally dead. And they have you come in the meditation, she has you come to this door. And on the other side of this door is your past life that your angels are going to show you to resolve whatever it is in your life at this current point in time. So she says, open the door and look at your feet. And I look at my feet and I definitely saw some old type sandals. And she asked, okay, where are you at? And the word Constantinople came to my mind. And I was
Really?
like, oh, did this go off?
No, I think you got it.
Oh, okay.
Can you not hear it?
No, I can't.
Sometimes you got to.
Oh, I bumped that. Sorry.
Is it there?
Yeah,
Got it?
no,
Okay,
it's there.
perfect.
Um,
It's kind of fidgety sometimes.
Yeah, it's touchy.
okay.
Got it?
Nope, I can't still hear, but
You can't pull this up maybe. Oh, it's wrapped around. Yeah, just don't unplug that USB. That'd be bad.
okay. There. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. Okay.
All right. There we go.
The word Constantinople came to my mind. I was like, what the hell? You know, and like
Yeah.
anyways, long story short is she has you review your life and like who's around you and what were you doing, and then she forwards you to your deathbed. And it's not
Really?
Yeah, when the moment that you die. And it's not anything super at least in this lifetime I died on my I was in a bed dying, and that I was pretty young though. And the thing is though is that my father was near my bedside, and it was my daughter's father.
Really?
So my ex, right?
Wow.
And he was telling me, he's like, I've always been so proud of you. I love you and all this kind of stuff, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, you mother effer. Just because I was his son in that life, and I was like, here I've been spending my entire lifetime thinking I was never good enough, or that I've been trying to prove myself to you, when your father's affection and prove, pulled the line and all that kind of stuff. So I died with that anger.
Wow.
So then when I realized that, and I'm getting chills now, when I came out of that past life regression, I was like crying and stuff because, again, maybe that wasn't true, but it provided some sort of peace and understanding of that's where that anger kind of came in, right? Because it's very similar, not until I leaving you, dying, is then you say that you want me and you love me type of thing. And so that provided hey, that's a lesson that I don't need to carry into this lifetime. And so I still disliked him, but I didn't hate him anymore. So it was having that healing.
Yeah. What changes after that then, after doing something like that for you?
Well, like I said, I was able to get rid of that hatred type of thing. And so it just provided that clarity and understanding of where that strong emotion came from type of thing. And I was able to let that go.
Did it improve the relationship between you guys at all?
It still took some time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, no, I mean, yeah, we didn't get back together or anything like that. But I mean, just being able to get to that point where we can definitely coexist or co-parent our daughter.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of what I
But,
was thinking.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do that anymore, I'm assuming, is where you were kind of
Oh,
going.
yeah. No, I don't know when, but at some point in time in Doreen's life, she totally denounced everything that she used to do. And now she's very much on the Christian side and saying how, all of that, she was being brainwashed. And, it's it's crazy.
That's an interesting place to go, though, with the Christian thing, because we've had Adrian on, and he says that you can be a Christian psychic. Is that a thing you agree with, or no?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I had an experience at one of my local churches and I was so nervous because I stupidly opened myself up and a spirit came to me and with a message, and I was writing it down. And of course my mom's giving me the sad side eye and stuff, like what are you doing? And, it was this message for this one lady, and I got her name, her description, and I nervously gave it to the pastor, and he was totally open to it. And then it was amazing because the lady, she called me later and she told me, she's like, Jamie, you know what? Your message was like a gift from God, because it was from her mom and that. And so it was just really eye-opening and felt very supportive in how a lot of the times in the Christian faith, they view psychics and mediums as kind of some sort of devil form or witchcraft or something like that, that I was still able to provide that help and that clarity for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was going to ask you, where does religion come in? Because there's got to be some spiritual connections here that people if they don't go with the devil argument, whatever, can come in and say, here's a spiritual argument for what's going on here. Maybe some people have abilities that other people just don't, and maybe that isn't a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting to hear different perspectives from people because there can be a horrible negative connotation with it.
Correct. Yeah.
But like I said, when you look at it and when you think about what psychics, mediums, people say, it's not in ill will. It's not like that. So
No.
I can't believe that there'd be such a negative connotation. Not, and it's not like everybody thinks that, but it seems to be that there's a lot of people.
It's still out there,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why kind of going back to earlier what we said, like how those skeptics will be like, oh yeah, well, where did my mother who died hide her necklace? You know, or you know, like type of thing.
Yeah.
Or how they test you and that. And
It's got to be tough sometimes to deal with that, I bet.
It is. And I mean, it's definitely was very nerve wracking coming out of the psychic medium closet, so to speak, in the beginning, you know, like thinking people are weird, you know, like thinking I'm weird. Or I know I had a friend of mine like message me and be like, so you think you're really psychic? You can talk to dead people? And I'm just like, yeah.
How was that coming out to family talking about?
Well, at least most of my family's pretty supportive and understanding of it. Probably my mom has been the most resistant to it, even though I know that she has some empath type abilities. And I, you know, honestly, I believe that has come down through the generations and stuff. And on my mom's side, so like her mom was too. But there's been too many coincidences and things for her to not believe. So I've just been trying to kind of talk more about it a little bit, not like, let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
But like, hey, I got an expo this weekend, and yeah, I did a lot of readings this weekend and was able to help a lot of people. And that's just trying to normalize it. And she's kind of opening up to it, but you know, I guess it just takes time.
Yeah, I think the older generation might be more of that group that has the negative view of it, because of times have changed and people are a lot more open nowadays to different viewpoints and stuff.
Correct, yeah.
So, you know, I can see how that'd be complicated to come out and tell people, you know, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Whether you accept it or not, it's going to happen. So, I mean, that's got to be an interesting thing to do.
It definitely makes dating interesting too. You know, like, hey.
I was going to ask about that. Like, you show up, do you like know immediately, like, okay, this is the guy. Nope, this is not the guy.
Oh, no, that's my own life lesson to learn in this lifetime. But I mean, it's definitely nerve wracking, like when you meet somebody, because you don't know what their viewpoint is on spirituality and stuff. And it's not like I'm right at the get go, you know, like you said, oh, what do you do for profession? Oh, I'm a psychic medium, you know, before you know it, they're running out the door or something, you know, and to be like, okay.
The whole time they're eating their food, they're like, she knows what I'm thinking right now.
No.
How many years have you been a psychic for? Like, when did you come out and say?
Yeah, what was that in that first initial experience?
That first initial one was maybe about probably 3-4 years ago now.
Okay.
Is when I think Wesley mentioned it for the Dark Corner investigation team. They had asked, they said that they had a special project going on and they asked me to be a part of it because we were all in the film community. And I said, oh yeah, really cool. And so we had this meeting and we talked about starting this paranormal investigation group called Dark Corners Investigation. And that's when I pulled two of the individuals aside and I'm like, so I'm a psychic medium and here's what I'm thinking about for my role on the team.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh wow, really cool. You know, and so that's where I really kind of came out of that closet and just dove off the end of the dock, so to speak, at our first investigation. And since then, I've been seeking out different mentors and taking other different classes to really hone in and fine tune those skills. Because going into paranormal investigations, to be able to figure out what is the energy of the room versus an object and that. And what clued me into that was there was one room, I did kind of like a walkthrough and said what I was getting. In one room, I guess it's like, you know, the dizzy room. There's lots of negative energy in there. But I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm seeing this picture of this old lady and she's sewing and all this kind of stuff, right?
This is like a haunted location you guys are at?
Yeah. And it wasn't until like that we were packing up because we were doing, you know, we did like some sort of experiment or we're in there. And I was picking up some lights and unbeknownst to us is that some of the rooms the individual had rented out for people to store things in. Over in this corner was this sewing kit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just, so that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I want to fine tune this because obviously I was picking up on the energy of that.
Yeah.
Versus in the room or the history on that. So that's where I was like, I need to fine tune this a little bit more. Yeah.
That's good you brought up the paranormal part of it, like this paranormal investigation part. I know you guys are doing that. How did you meet Wesley through the psychic thing, or did you meet him? Were you friends with him, and then he kind of brought up, let's do a paranormal investigation?
No, I met him on we were on a film together.
Oh, okay.
And then they brought him in onto our Dark Corner investigation team because we went down there. I think we went down there 2 other times, and he had joined. And then unfortunately though, things are kind of on the back burner because of COVID and stuff. And then that's where Wesley and I kept in contact, and we're like, hey, we're just chomping at the bit. We love paranormal stuff. Let's do paranormal stuff. And so we were thinking, well, why don't we go ahead and try to do something that, and Wesley kind of describes it as they're the Avengers, right? The big Avengers.
Yeah.
And then we're like the offshoot of like Spider-Man 2 or something, or whatever. So we're still part of the big team, but we're just kind of off doing our own thing right now.
And that is that kind of the development of the show that you guys is that what you're talking about?
Grave Seekers. Yeah.
And when can we see that? Is that going to be a little ways out here? You guys got stuff coming soon?
We do have stuff coming soon. We did film our intro and our first episode probably about 2 weeks ago now.
Really?
Yep. And so our editor, Steve, is in the process of finishing a prior project, and then he's going to really start focusing in on that.
Can you talk about the first episode, like where you were and any stories?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know about for stories, but I can tell you where we were.
Yeah.
We were at the Boyd House in Boyd, Minnesota.
Okay. How do you guys find these different locations? Because I know you can go online, you can find haunted this, haunted that, and people use it as a tourist attraction.
They can.
Do you go though and like feel something like there's something here or there's not something here? This is not a good one. This is a good one. Like, how do you pick which ones to go to?
We're still kind of in that process right now, being that Boyd was our first one, and actually it just kind of serendipitously came up to us. Because I had a reading done, and I was telling her about how we were struggling, locking down a place, and timing and pay and all that kind of stuff. And we also wanted to find a location that we could film our intro at as well. And she's like, I'm hearing the word Boyd. Do you know somebody named Boyd or know Boyd and stuff?
Really?
So it actually came up in a reading that I had.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then I brought it up to our team, and that's where we came across the Boyd House. So,
instant feeling though when you're there, like you could tell there's something.
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. When you go to a normal location, like a normal house, even here or whatever, do you feel the energy of what used to be here? Like the walls can talk type thing,
If I'd have to really focus in and be able to feel those slight nuances of that. Definitely sometimes, and I'm sure you guys might even feel it though too, even though you might not identify as a psychic, but some houses you walk in and you're like, ooh, something's off here type of thing, right? So there's definitely some locations where you might go into and you pick up on that. But otherwise, I mean, I'm not grounded and centered, or I put up those defenses because I don't want to be picking up on stuff all the time. Yeah.
How do you keep the evil? Because I'm assuming when you get into this kind of stuff, there's got to be evil energy that can come out.
Yeah.
And attack you or do anything. How do you keep that away when you guys are doing this kind of stuff? Is there something that you can do? Whether I've heard of people using crystals and stuff.
Yep.
What are your techniques for that?
I definitely do use various different crystals. Like I wear my rings and my bracelets and stuff like that for myself. I actually gave a couple members of our team, I brought some extra crystals or extra bracelets for them to wear too for protection. And just kind of really setting that boundary or that standard as well, is because when you think about it, unless you're dealing with demons, but even them is you kind of just set that boundary like, hey, I only want to interact with those of higher vibrations and all that kind of stuff. So then that way that keeps more of that negative out. But a lot of the time, sometimes, I guess that's something I'm still kind of figuring out though too, is sometimes I've had my protection too high and then nothing comes through.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So there can almost be too much safety. Yeah.
Almost,
that's weird. You brought up demons though. Have you had any personal experiences with that?
I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I've asked my mentors and stuff like that about how do you know a demon energy? And they were like, oh, you'll just know, type of thing. Or one doesn't really acknowledge about demons, just that they're a lower vibrational energy type of thing, right? But then demons are also tricksters as well. So I think of some of the different energies or spirits that I've encountered in the various places I've been at. And sometimes they might present as a really sad spirit to get you locked in and to hear their story
Really?
and all that, right? So I definitely have noticed, though, too, is that if there's maybe if they've been passed away for a while or they are like maybe more of a demon type energy, is they're very much more clear and very yeah, I guess clearer in my head for when they're talking.
You
for that.
know, you can just tell.
They're so clear. It's not like I need to like continuously raise my vibration or like, can you say that again? Or, different things like that. It's just very clear.
That's
It's just-
interesting.
yeah,
I
it's
wonder
just
why would
crazy.
that be that
I'm not too sure.
that dark energy, because we've had a demon hunter on as well.
Tom Urban.
Tom Urban, yeah.
Yeah.
He really describes it like you did pretty much. Like there is something here and I know like it's right, like it's right here and it's
Yep.
like you could tell.
Yep.
And he's got attacked before and he has stories of that and he's got pictures of being attacked.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to me that like that deep dark energy versus like the kind of the blurriness of the paranormal is there's got to be something, a way to explain that almost.
Yeah, you would think so. Well, and then not only like there's demons, but there's also other stuff too. Like, I mean, there's shadow people or shadow entities, and they're like a lower vibrational or kind of more of a neutral energy, but they could almost be summed up like in a hierarchy of that as well as other entities and different things.
Are there
So-
tools that you could use to measure a room? I know because they have like the ghost box and different things.
Yeah.
Are there tools that measure like the room to tell you like what kind of thing we got here, or is it all has to be from a medium? Like
that would probably be more so like a medium.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I guess that's where the fun in it and that science experimentation can kind of come with, because if I say, oh, there's more of a shadow person in here, or I'm seeing this cloud or something, to see what is the temperature of the room possibly, or does the EMF thing go off versus, just regular talking to another spirit. And that would be interesting to kind of compare that differences. And that.
I would love to know that, because we've seen the videos. Adrian's brought stuff on. We've seen other people tell us. They've shown us like, here's I don't know what they use, like a PlayStation camera thing. You know
The
anything
Kinect.
about that?
Yeah, the Kinect.
What is that measuring there? Because we literally saw a picture and it was a person like on this thing.
Yeah.
What is it measuring?
It maps the body out. So if you stand in front of it, it's going to make the little stick figure thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's why they say like, it's really interesting to use that, because then as you go around, the camera will map out the person, because then it's measuring some sort of energy on some level, they're saying.
That's crazy.
For it, yeah.
You guys have utilized that before?
With our Dark Corner investigation team, they had that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have all these different tools out working together, and are you getting like the Connect thing with the EMF? Are you getting them all like going
sometimes,
off?
Yeah, sometimes they can all go off, or sometimes, certain entities or spirits like working with certain other things. So like, sometimes you might use the spirit box or something, right? Or the ghost box, and they can talk easily through that. But then there's other ones too where you have the EMF and they just like answering yes or no and making it like go off or something. So you just kind of got to figure out what is the best way to communicate with them. And I always have to tell the spirits, I'm like, I know I can hear you, but they can't. So can you talk through this or talk through us? Give us some sort of like physical thing, because my friends can't hear you. So
Ethan, did Adrian use the Connect thing at the bar?
He didn't bring it with. We did an episode where he actually had the ghost box, like the.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
What is that thing? Because it's measuring electromagnetic or something frequencies, or.
It goes through radio stations at like a certain velocity or whatever you want to say, and so since it's going through so fast, the spirit will then pick out certain words to have it come through, and that's why it's always really good to have like 2-syllable words or like a sentence, right? Because it's very less likely that since it's going so fast that a full sentence would come out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because then if it's going through slowly, you'd be like, oh, that's just the radio station. So that's why it goes through so quickly.
It needs something to go physically through though,
yeah.
because it can't just talk out loud for everyone in the room to hear.
No, that's where like obviously you would go back and listen to it, and then that's where you might hear it. I guess I could share this one because I know it was shared before, is at the Boyd House with our team down there, is we were doing spirit box session. And actually Adrian had joined us for that too that night. And it was saying all of our names. And our gaffer later, Noah, was like, well, they didn't say my name, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then he was reviewing some of the evidence later on, or just because we were dumping footage in that. And then he's like, oh my gosh, guys, come here. And you could hear a disembodied voice go, Noah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't really a believer in that before Adrian brought that thing on.
Yeah.
And he was asking it questions, and we were all hearing the same thing. And then he'd be like, now for people that don't believe it, let's ask it again.
Yeah.
And then it would say it again. And you have to really listen, because you hear like the twins, and you'll hear like all the random words, but then in the background you'll hear yes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah, and
it's
then
really creepy.
What's even more creepy too is that you notice that they have different, like, almost voice tones as well, right?
Yeah.
Or like if it's a female with a voice tone. Or down in at this other investigation that we went to for different spirits, you're like, oh yeah, that's Hank, type of thing, because you just knew the voice tone. It's very, very odd of how they can manifest that as well.
What's the backstory with the Boyd house?
It was built in the around 1902 or so, and it was Minnie and Fred, and they had multiple children. At least 4 of them did pass away, and if just for some reason they both died in the house. And that
was it like a murder or anything?
I don't think no, they died of natural causes, and that and their children died of natural causes as well. What I was actually getting psychically is that Minnie had wanted us to come down there and help her get rid of something in the house. Either something had been let in intentionally or unintentionally by another team or something. So that's what our kind of premise and goal was, to go in there, was to figure out what did Minnie want us to help her with.
Interesting. Do you ever have spirits follow you home?
Yes.
How does that work? Do they get attached to the personality, or?
I'm not too sure. They just sometimes follow you home. And so that's why it's really important to, like I said, set that boundary, set that standard. You can sage yourself or wear your crystals and stuff like that. I had actually, I think it wasn't from the Boyd house. It was because it was like a week later. And I had done a reading over the phone, and there's just something in me that was saying, Jamie, you need to cancel this reading. Just refund the lady her money. Just don't do the reading. Don't do the reading. Yeah. But I went ahead and did the reading anyways, because I'm starting to do that, do readings. I'm getting bookings actually through my website, and I didn't want to start that premise of canceling on people and get that bad word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm going to go forward with the reading. And she was this individual that lived down in Mississippi, or, somewhere down south. And she wanted me to kind of get a feeling and feel what was in her house. And so there was multiple things in there. And then I had given her some extra time because I had to reschedule her a little bit. And I was in the middle of explaining something. So I went over that even more so. And she's like, I just have one more question for you. I'm like, okay. She's like, who's the pig man? I was like, oh, shit.
Pig man?
Yeah, I don't know. This entity that apparently would come up to her and, I don't know, was...
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know...
Sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah. And so I don't know if it was that or something... Then I just felt like off. Like I felt like drained, or like I didn't feel my normal self.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a good friend of mine that has just been kind of starting to explore his gifts a little bit or something like that. And he's like, what is around you? I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean? Like, what's around me? Type of thing. And so after our conversation, I was like, nope, you know what? Whatever it is, they can get the F out of my house, So then I went in there, you open up all the doors and windows, and I started at the top of my house and I was saging it. And I just command, I'm like, only those of love and light, any other lower negative vibrations, I command you to leave, all that kind of stuff, right? And just going through out the exterior of each room. And I was downstairs then, and I was like in my dining room area. And there's like a hallway, and then there's like this little door here, and then there's like a little entryway here, and there's the outside door. Okay, so there was 2 doors here.
Yeah.
And the wind is blowing inwards, okay, because I opened up the window on the door.
Yeah.
And so then I'm down here at the dining room, and I said, I command you to go out one of these doors or windows now, because how dare you come into my house and follow me home and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden I hear creak and then slam.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. This is at that exact time, too.
Right after I said that. Yeah.
So you're thinking the pig man
or something.
That's interesting. And this was a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
How That's unbelievable that you can talk to these people on the phone and that something would come to you.
Well, yeah.
How does that? That's
I know
unbelievable.
that's something that I really need to figure out, especially if I'm going to continue doing readings at home and stuff and I mean, and the thing is I even surrounded myself with crystals and but then again too, was it from the reading or was it from the Boyd house or where I work? Cause I work at like a prison and there's lots of different energies and entities there. It could have been something from there too. I think I had talked to Adrian about that and he's like, well, if I've been dead for 150 years and you came around, and you can hear me, of course I'm going to follow you home, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Cause you can hear me and I need to tell you my story or something like that. But it's something else when it goes into like your personal space, especially with my kids and stuff. And so I just kind of energetically set up that boundary and all that kind of stuff. And it's just something that going forward, I know I'm going to have to be more vigilant in possibly saging once a week or doing something kind of, and people ask, well, you said that, why can't it be good? And I was talking to my friend and I said, I guess it's kind of like, view it as like watering a plant, right? You can't just plant it and water it once. You're going to have to keep watering it to keep it strong.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with like saging or setting up that boundary that's unfortunately maybe how some stuff might follow you home. So it's just being that extra vigilant. Or after that expo that I did last week is I took a few moments and I grounded and centered myself and just cleared all that energy and said, nothing is following me home. You can stay here or go back to where you came from or go back to God's source, whatever it is, but you're not following me home.
Yeah, that's scary stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever have it where you have too many people around you to where you can't attract the energy or whatever it might be that comes to you, where because you go to these expos, I'm assuming there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do spirits ever get afraid of a large group or crowds that they don't want to come out and talk? Or maybe that's a bad way to put it. When you guys are doing an investigation, there might be too many people in a room where you can't get anything, and then people leave, and you're like, boom, they're back.
Yeah, sometimes, because it just depends on everybody's energy too. I mean, and that's one thing that I was, definitely Wes and I have kind of been talking about where are we at and where is our team kind of at, like mentally and all that kind of stuff, because you want to be at a good spot. And then when Adrian came and helped us too, it was like, don't block the doorway because the spirits need to be able to come in. Because I guess when you think about it, if I'm sitting in the middle of the doorway, I'm going to feel uncomfortable going around you or something like that. Here you are wanting to talk to me, but I can't get in the room, type of thing. So just those type of things that you don't kind of think about.
No, you really, because I'm just thinking you go to a haunted location and there's something comforting being with other people but I can see how that'd be intrusive to them where they wouldn't want to come out if you bring 10 people into a room and there's a spirit in the room, how they wouldn't want to say anything or make anything move or talk to you because there's so much energy in this room of other actual human beings.
Or you think of it like, what if it's a 10-year-old kid? I mean, if there's 5-6 people and in the room and, some of them might be kind of viewed as scary by this 10-year-old kid. I wouldn't want to come in there either and talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Type of thing. Whereas maybe if it's like 2 people and they look friendly, yeah, I'll come in there and talk to you then.
Do you ever have somebody say, leave, like get out, I don't want you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
That's got to be...
Yeah.
Do you leave then or do you...
No.
Now you're asking for it and then you wonder why they follow you home.
I know, right? I guess I asked for it. Right? Yeah, type of thing.
How far back has been like the oldest thing that you guys have come across, like Civil War era type thing?
Oh, gosh.
Soldiers.
I guess I would have to say maybe around the 1800s is probably the oldest that I've come across.
Is there something where spirits eventually lose their energy? And because think of all the people that have died over time, there's billions of people. And you can only go so far back because spirits lose the energy over time and that they had?
I don't know the answer to
I'm
that
just
question.
trying to.
That's
if anyone knows, comment below.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm wondering, if you could go back and talk or like hear from like the Egyptian time or
I'm sure.
whatever, like the beginning, the Indian, Native American spirits. Maybe that is an era where you could talk to Native Americans, especially in Mankato.
Yeah.
With the history here,
yeah.
There's got to be some kind of energy, probably a negative energy in places of Cato.
That's what Tom said.
Yeah, Tom really thinks there's some in parts of Cato. There's a very negative, almost demonic energy because of the massacre, the mass massacre. I think it was the largest massacre in the history of the United States was in
I believe so,
of Native
yeah.
Americans. It was
Wow.
in Mankato.
So that would be a
Yeah.
lot of anger and hate
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that vengeance and everything.
Uh-huh.
Like all those, again, lower vibrational energies. So
Yep.
when you have that type of event that happens, it creates that and almost kind of creates this vortex or this portal where other energies and that are attracted to it at that point in time, almost, I would say.
Oh yeah, and would that breed demonic spirits to?
They probably would. I mean, they would
yeah.
be attracted to that. And especially if, people are then attracted to that and are trying to figure it out or what's going on. And, it's a playground to them is what kind of comes to my mind.
Oh yeah, 100%. And
Didn't Tom say? I'm not gonna say the spot, but he was describing
better quote it. Perfect.
Yeah. he named a location.
Yeah, but didn't he say that? Didn't he use the term battleground or something?
Yeah, there was one part of Mankato
that he won't even drive by.
He won't go by it
Really?
because
He
he
said the
has such a
energy is so
strong thing with it that
Wow.
it literally like it will overpower him. Like he's
Wow.
been in very serious situations before, and he
Yeah.
won't go to this one spot.
You have
Wow.
crystals. He's got crystals.
Yeah, he has some massive.
Big
his-
ones.
He's got
Yeah.
some crazy stuff because he does a lot of exorcisms and stuff like that,
okay.
and so he's got like a huge staff with
Nice.
like big you should check that one out. 'cause
Yeah,
I think you really
definitely.
like
I'll
that.
definitely have to
We've had
check
him on
that.
2 times.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
One time he brought all his stuff. So.
he brought graveyard dirt and he brought all
Oh,
kinds
really?
of stuff. With,
So,
oh yeah,
wow.
he's really
Okay.
into it. Yeah, it's
We even went to a cemetery one night with him.
yeah. We went
you
out to.
did?
I don't know how familiar you are with Mankato
No, I'm not.
cemeteries. There's one Rapidan Holberg.
Yeah.
And there's a grave, Cotton's grave, and he won't go by it because it's like a demonic entity or
Wow,
whatever.
really?
And I had a
Okay.
scratch on my leg after leaving from that.
Did you really?
Yes, we have it on video. And
That's crazy.
Tom's like, "Come over here," because I'm not going over there. So we
Yeah.
looked at it, and it was kind of faint, but you could see like talons or
The
whatever.
three.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And he's like, "There you go. That's why we
I
don't,
don't go over there."
Yeah.
Wow.
He was getting dragged around and all.
Tom
sorts
was
of-
getting his arm was getting pulled backwards.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
that's
Have you ever
crazy.
had anything touch you or?
Yeah, I had a spirit choke me.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you could feel.
Yeah, I
Pan?
was. That was like the first time that we had went down to Iowa to that one place, and we were in this one room talking to that spirit Hank, and he was not a very nice man. He was holding spiritually hostage this woman and her child.
Really?
Yeah, and there's more to the story, but we didn't know that at that point in time, and. So everybody was kind of doing the spirit box, and he was coming through and talking and stuff. And then I was kind of standing off to the side, and I'll bring a notebook with me because I do automatic writing. And I love doing that just because it just totally removes your ego and you just start writing.
You're not. Are you even looking?
No, yeah. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
you are?
Look, so,
Okay,
so
I didn't
that
know what
way-
you're just like.
Yeah, but no, it's just it comes so fast.
Oh.
Or sometimes what's really interesting is my handwriting will change as
Really?
well. Yeah, it's
Wow.
really bizarre. But anyways, I was connected to the female in there. And this is where my handwriting had changed. It was like really small in that, and I was writing, and she was talking about how Hank had killed her and saying like where they were buried, and I'm just like really focused on this, right? And I'm like, okay, this is the message. Oh my gosh, this is super intense, right? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I felt like hands go like this to me.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, and I dropped my pen. I was like, oh my gosh, Hank just choked me because that was his thing. He's definitely like a womanizer and all that kind of stuff.
Damn.
And that was, coming to light with other stories, and that was what he did to help control women around him, was he would choke them.
And you looked this up afterwards, and
I
was.
got that. No, I got that later, and I actually helped her cross over, and that's what she had showed me.
Really?
Yeah, and then it
Wow.
was crazy when I was doing like the confession video or experience afterwards. I don't know, but I know I get red sometimes, or I got really sensitive. But they were talking about like how there was like a red line like around
Really?
my neck. Yeah.
Wow.
Dang.
That's scary stuff when you start. Does that ever worry you about going and messing with certain things like that?
It does on some level, but then I guess that's where that protection level comes in, and definitely being hyper vigilant about that type of stuff. So again, just setting those intentions, calling in my team of like angels and spirit guides and all that kind of stuff, wearing my crystals and that type of thing to just set that protection around me. So just knowing that I'm going in there with this level of protection and I'm at a higher vibrational level. Whereas that, I was just, like I said, that was like my first investigation, diving out to the edge of the dock,
Wow.
embracing my psychic mediumship.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like probably obviously fully prepared with stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's just neat kind of thinking about my journey and how much I've been evolutionizing myself
Yeah.
as time goes on.
What are your thoughts on healing? Because I know that there are some psychics that really, or mediums that get into healing, especially Adrian talks about horse healing.
Oh, okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think definitely connecting with animals, they have such this unconditional love, or they have certain type of spirits as well, you could say, and they definitely can provide that sort of healing for people.
Do you get involved with any of that?
No, not too much. I mean, I guess when you talk about healing, the first thing that comes to my mind is being able to provide different messages to people, you know, and that. Or a big part too is cord cutting, I believe, is another thing that can help with healing.
I've heard that. What can you remind me what that is? I've heard the phrase.
So cord cutting is like even now, like in this moment, technically on the etheric realm is we have cords connected because we're all sitting here, we're all connecting, right, type of thing. So we have this cord. And so you have cords that you develop throughout your life with family members, with significant others, all that kind of stuff, coworkers. And obviously sometimes the relationships aren't that good, right, type of thing. Or they end up, so you want that cord to be removed, or it gets kind of clouded or dirty type of thing. So you want to clean it. And so you always want to cut cords after you meet with people, because then that way you're sitting in your own energy instead of always having them drain you or stuff. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I can't remember who was talking about that. Somebody was telling us about that. And you have to do that with everybody that you, or is it just with certain people?
You can do it with certain people. Yeah. I mean, you can do it with certain people to just kind of be like, okay, I cut this cord. I'm calling my energy back type of thing. We're done type of thing. Right. But some relationships you want to have, like with me and my kids, or maybe with your mom or dad, you know, type of thing. And just because you cut it doesn't mean that it can't reattach. So, I mean, you can do that. Or if like you wanted to keep your cord with your mom, like, cause you're really connected with her and love her a lot, you could just clean it, so to speak. Cause right. Cause communication can break down, or different feelings and all that over time can happen. So you can have it kind of cleared. I almost view it as like one of those tunnels like that ET goes through.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
That's how I envision it. Or like there's this clear cord with that's like blue or something like that. And so just kind of clearing that or cutting it.
Do you cut cords with somebody who's passed away?
I believe that it is good for some individuals. I was actually have a reading coming up for one lady. I believe it is her grandpa that comes around a lot. And he's not so nice a man. He's come up in different readings. And so she's like, I want to deal with him. Like, I want him to be gone type of thing. And so I guess my intention of going into that reading is, first I'm going to see what kind of messages, like, is there some sort of verbal healing that we can do so he can like pass on or cross over? Maybe there's something here. If he's just a grumpy old man and just very negative, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
And he's not listening and he just wants to be spiteful. Well, then you know what? We're going to set some intentions, get rid of you, and she can cut that cord with you. So that way you're not connected anymore.
Interesting. You don't have a lot of people coming to you with that request though.
No, I mean, it's something that I'm still kind of really exploring and kind of fine tuning in that. I know that I've done it for myself in regards to like past relationships and that. And what was it? One night I did that and I just got rid of like all the cords, like even with my kids and my family, like just cut all the cords, just pull them all away and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how to explain it, but I felt so at ease and so relaxed just because I was in my own energy. Like there wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. It
a lot
was
of
just,
baggage.
it was a
people
lot,
don't know.
it was very blissful.
Yeah.
Like maybe that worry about your kid, you know, worry about mom or different things. Like I was just in my own energy. It was so blissful. Yeah.
Wow. That's, I see. There's a lot of things that we've heard before, but then there's a lot of things that when we talk to somebody new, you're always learning something. Even from talking to a psychic, I've learned a lot here tonight. So this has been great. One of the things we usually finish with question is, if you could go back to tell your 21-year-old self one thing, what would it be? And you could take a second to think about it, because that's a big question. But it's something we ask every one of our guests, because I feel everyone can learn something from. That's kind of our quote for the show: is learn something from everybody. So
I guess what comes to my mind is something that was said to me when I was older that kind of helped me kind of spur and start this path is you are never too old to go after something you're passionate about.
I love that because not enough people do that nowadays.
No, you think like, oh, my chance is up, or I can't do that anymore, or I'm too old to do that, or what are my resources in that? But somebody had told me that once, and that's what kind of spurred me on to finding myself again and my confidence and getting into filming and acting, which ended up leading to paranormal, which led me to embracing more of my psychic mediumship. So like this long path, you could say.
That's awesome. And now it's developed into a business for you, right?
Yes.
Because you had told me a little bit about Indigo Seeress. Is that the shop name then?
Yep, that's what I go by, just because I wanted to have something a little bit separate established, because my acting is, under Jamie Houck, and so I wanted to have this separate from that as Indigo Seeress.
So where can people find that if they want to reach out to you?
I am all over the place. I do have a website at indigoseeress.com. Just have a bio. You can book readings. There's also information about our Grave Seekers group on there as well, so you can contact us for that. I am on Facebook and Instagram, and I started a TikTok probably about a month ago.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I was dragging my feet because I'm like, I don't want another social media to have to manage and stuff. But then I joined it, and I love it, actually.
Yeah. You can do it. You can really spread the word on there. Like, people will find you from all over the place.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
I
really
love
good
doing
promotion.
I do the lives as well. And so I'll do mini free readings for people and get reviews. And I think that's where I've kind of started to get some booked readings through my website, and that is through people that have been in those rooms or referrals and stuff. So yeah.
And so will the show then, you said that'll be on the website, there'll be a link for that?
Yeah.
Or Facebook? Or both probably?
Grave Seekers, we do have all three. We do have Facebook, Instagram. Those are contact Grave Seekers. And then, like I said, on my website at Indigo Seeress, I do have a specific page for Grave Seekers, and it has all the links and email on there too.
And when will the first episode be coming out again?
I don't know.
You're not sure yet.
Soon. Yeah, we will announce it. I know.
Keep us updated.
I know, we're very eager about it. And so, yeah, I mean, if you guys know of anybody that has like a haunting or something like that, or they're experiencing paranormal stuff, that's where Wes and I and our group would go in and kind of help people. That's what our kind of goal is to help. What is his name? There was another podcast I did, but make the paranormal normal type of thing, right?
Yeah, people don't know what to do. This might be their last.
They think they're going crazy, or they don't feel safe in their home, or something like that. If we can go in there and help provide some clarity, or get rid of whatever it is, or help them know how to protect themselves a little bit more, that's what our kind of goal is, as well as doing other just kind of fun investigations too.
Now, if people are worried about being on camera, do they have to be there when you're doing this, or no?
No, they don't have to be.
Because I know some people might be like, I don't want them coming and being on the show. Or whatever.
No, we would be very sensitive to that type of thing. And I mean, that's something that we would talk about if they don't want to be on camera, or they want that help but don't want it to be aired. And so like different things that we can work around.
Perfect. Well, we'll put the links for all this in the description. Jamie, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
Guys.
Colin, you probably learned a lot too.
Oh yeah.
You were pretty quiet over there, Colin.
He's the producer.
Yeah, I just hit the buttons.
Yeah, he's the button guy. So thank you, Jamie. This has been great. Like I said, we'll have all the links in there, so check out her stuff. Keep us updated with the show, because we'll post that as well.
Oh, for sure.
Promote that, because I love this kind of stuff. So this has been awesome. We'll have to have you back on in the future after you guys do more investigations.
For sure, yeah.
Because you're going to have stories.
Oh, I'm sure
you're going to have some crazy stories.
Yeah, who knows where we'll be through that. And maybe I'll have some answers for you for some of the questions we didn't know
Yeah,
either,
there we go.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be
you.
back next week. This is the Ether Claire Podcast Show.